So the other day I was looking around the internet at physics stuff, quantum and particle physics, shit like that. I started asking the obligatory existential questions. Why does anything exist? Seriously though, why are there any particles or particle interactions at all? Even if you take religion's perspective and say that God made everything, that still doesn't tell you who made God or why anything exists. Of course, there are questions that we're never going to answer, but
I do think you're onto something, though. Did you ever read A New Kind of Science?
yeah, I think you mentioned it.
Yeah, it really got me thinking about these existential questions, as you call them. It has a lot to say about existence in general, and it challenges many of the basic precepts of science.
Okay, first of all, you don't get to correct me. I already put air quotes around existential. Second, why you gotta be an asshat all the time? Third,
Anyway, the book is written by Stephen Wolfram, who is the driving force behind Mathematica.
yeah, Wolfram Alpha.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, in A New Kind of Science...
Does Wolfram pay you a stipend every time you mention the name of
Anyway,
his book?
in Wolfram's book, he shows how insanely complex behavior can emerge from extremely simple systems. There are literally hundreds of renderings of all these cellular automata in the book, represented by black and white squares with which they interact with each other according to simple rules. So, like, if you're a square and you have two neighboring squares that are black, you turn white in the next turn step. Depending on the rules and the initial conditions, the initial black and white square pattern, different behaviors arise. Some rules lead to very uninteresting results, like everything is just one big black square. Conversely, some rules lead to very interesting results. Some are so interesting, in fact, they've been proven to be Turing complete. In other words,
Computationally universal. I went to fucking college up there. I'm not Steve.
and Wolfram argues that our universe is basically one big computation. That may be very similar to one of these cellular automata.
Oh, these are seriously interesting, man. But this doesn't answer any of those questions we talked about before. Why does anything exist?
Well, Wolfram draws a parallel between these cellular automata and universes. Maybe there are many universes and they all follow different simple rules. Some of these universes would be very uninteresting and even die out, forcing the pattern to stop computation. Conversely, some of these universes are so interesting that intricate, complex, and beautiful behavior emerge. Obviously, we would live in one of these more interesting universes, since it would not even be possible to exist in a universe where nothing happens. There would be a seemingly incalculable number of universes, each using a different set of simple rules, until every possible set of simple rules has been used.
That's a hell of a sentence. So let's see if I'm tracking you. So there are as many sets of these rules as there are universes.
Correct.
Yes! With my help, even Steve could understand your scientific titles.
I got it. I just don't give a shit.
Steve! We're just talking about you!
Yeah, I know. The channel's open. I've reached the target point.
So, zombies cause you any trouble? You alright?
I managed.
Are there any in there with you?
Yeah, no, they're pounding on the outside of the door. Relax, Cupcake. The AEM appears to be intact. At any rate, I have the vial. Someone want to tell me how the hell to operate this thing?
Didn't Jeff tell you when he gave you the vial?
Not all of us have time to sit and chat about physics, boys. Just tell me about what goes where and we can be done with this.
Steve, you made it!
Yeah, but I don't know what to do with this vial.
Well, I'll fill you in. So, in the room you're in is the antibody evolution machine, or ADM. It's still in working order, right?
Yeah, as far as I can tell.
Good. This device allows you to insert any protein, antigen, or virus into the machine, and it will produce an antibody that binds to it.
Okay, I'm a little rusty on my immunology. Can you clarify a bit so I know what to do with this thing?
Yes, certainly. So your body usually produces antibodies to target antigens in a virus or bacteria already. That's how vaccines work. You can inject a person with a protein or a virus, and their immune system will go through a process of prearrangement, mutation, and selection to produce an antibody that can bind with the target and neutralize harmful pathogens.
Okay,
But before you know what antibodies do, you have to know what they are. Antibodies have different components. They have two heavy chains connected to two light chains through disulfide bond. The whole molecule forms sort of a Y shape, like two limbs coming out of a trunk. The tip of the limbs contains the part that actually binds to antigens. The segment contains a hypervariable region, and the genes that code for this hypervariable region are the genes that undergo a lot of rearrangement, mutation, and selection to produce different structures that can bind with different antigens. There are three main segments to the hypervariable region on the heavy chain, the V, the D, and J segments. There are many variants in each lettered segment, so when these segments combine, they form a different antibody with each variant combination. These variants can also be mutated to produce a whole new variant. But the light chain just has a V and a J segment with no G segment. Anyway, normally your body just rearranges, mutates, and simulates all of these cells that produce antibodies, sometimes called B cells, to find an antibody that has the right lock to fit the pathogen's key. Now, the AEM is used when the patient can't produce their own antibody. For example, if there is a snake bite, venom will affect the patient much faster than they could ever produce an antibody to save their lives. In these situations, you can produce antibodies against the snake venom or in another animal and inject them into this human. We've tried to weaken our zombie virus and inject it into animals to produce the antibody, but the virus weakens the immune system of the victims too quickly for us to get anything useful. Our human zombies are also not producing any antibodies to recover either. Therefore, we use this machine to do what the human body would normally do. We have to produce the antibodies against the zombie virus artificially and then inject our vaccine into some of the zombies to see if we can cure them.
So,
we're not entirely sure, of course, if it will cure them, but you should know how it works if it does. It produces artificial arrangements, mutations, and selections of V, D, and J DNA. Then it translates this into protein in vitro. Final antibody product is then screened against the protein using SPR, which stands for surface plasmon resonance. SPR is really complicated, and I don't understand all of it. But basically, when something binds to a protein, which it is on the surface, this change in mass can be detected. It can also then determine the affinity, which is how tightly the antibody binds. The antibodies with the highest affinities are the ones that are most evolutionarily fit, and they are chosen as the basis for the next round of rearrangement, mutation, and selection.
So the virus is in the vial Jeff gave me. We put it into the AEM and a vaccine comes out?
No, essentially, yes.
Okay, next time say that. You know, if I die and you have to train a new super pathology gopher, that's what you called me yesterday, right, Derek?
Oh, yeah. We had a lot. I got lots of jokes. You should hear what I call myself.
What do you call yourself, Derek?
Boys, you don't know how long the virus will stay intact without proper preservation techniques. Let's get the AEM operational and get you, Steve, to safety. Then you two can compare the length of your respective manhood in person.